equipo mai. Welcome to Midday Manaʻo with Manu and Mehana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the acronym for our show.
I should say.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm Maikai Loa. Maikai. You know, we're getting into the summer months. We're heading through May and getting towards Kauvela. So it's nice to be out here at the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement Office in Kapolei. I'm not kama'aina to this area, so I made the wrong turn. Ended up in Eva Beach. And never have any U-turns. There's always like no U-turns.
Yeah, no. You just got to go straight all the way to the end until you hit the beach.
Until you get to Hau Bush.
Yeah, until you get to Hau Bush. It's a different world
But
out
you
this
know, but
side.
it's beautiful. And nani kokako kulaiwi o Hawaii pai.
Oh, yeah.
Aina.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what's up?
And
What's new? What's going on?
You know, first, Manu, I'm just looking at this ukulele that you have.
Oh, mahalo.
And I'm admiring it. It is so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, this is a gift. You know, I'm actually part Kamaka, you know, through all of our years in music. But this was a gift from Joe Souza and Kristen Souza from Kanilea Ukulele. So
it's nice.
You know, and they don't only just make ukulele and have a beautiful store at Windward Mall, which actually, by the way, Windward Mall is not in Kaneohe. Okay, Windward Mall is in He'eia. There we go.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, but they also,
you're gonna get quizzed at the end of the show.
But
so
you know,
but
what Kanilea Ukulele does though, they have a reforestation program. So they bring up community groups to go stay up in their place, beautiful place up in Kona, Hualalai, Mauna Loa. And we go up there, we plant koa, we plant maile, a'ali'i, iliahi. And hundreds of acres are being reforested by the people who also use the koa wood for making ukulele and also all the other plants for la'au. And you know how we love to wear maile too, because we're po'ehula, so we love that maile. And we know how to u'u that maile.
Some better than others.
Sure.
You know, you know, and mahalo for sharing that. I just love, you know, we have pahu drums behind us, konane boards, and this beautiful ukulele. So this perfect space, perfect mood to get us into some really good conversation. Yeah. You know, before we go any further, I just wanted to send a shout out to our sponsors at Kaiser Permanente and the National Benefit Fund. So awesome to be able to provide this opportunity for our lahui to have discussions and us to share Manaʻo, with the lahui on all kinds of stuff.
I also want to acknowledge too, because although I'm with Kamehameha Schools, I acknowledge the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, and our leader here is Kuhio Lewis, and he's also a board member of Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu. And so we've kind of watched him grow as a young leader, handsome Hawaiian, that one, And but what you folks do here is really, really good, and providing this forum so we can talk story with all of you about all kinds of things. I'm not even sure what. We're just going to be like a bird, and we're going to wing it.
Manu's going to be a Manu.
I'm going to be a Manu.
He's going to be a Manu today.
Sure.
You know, like you said, we're going into the summer months with all kinds of stuff happening, right? Well, the ledge is just piled. Graduation is happening, right? Graduation season, right? Coming right after May Day is Lei Day in Hawaii.
And speaking of Lei, so we, you know, it's one thing that is a tradition. It's a loina Hawaii. It's a Hawaiian tradition, and that is kaha'avi ada ina Lei, imea po mai kai ho mai kai. And not only in Hawaii too, but even on the continent, when our cousins and ohana up there, we always send lei. But because of what we refer to in Hawaiian as ma'iahulau, and ma'iahulau is the pandemic, and there have been rules and attempts in the past couple of years. But we think we're out of the woods, but we're still not really. Right. But still, and there were some schools that weren't allowing any lei giving.
Right.
At the ceremony.
I could not, I wouldn't even know what to do. You know,
but schools didn't even have graduations at all. That's true. So we're into, from March 2020 and 2021 and now 2022, we're moving away from the real heavy time, but and we have look at all this pua melia over here. And as you say, we're just coming off of Lei Day. And so wearing of the lei is very important. So whatever the rules are, we got to follow the rules, but you can go home and get laid.
Right. Now let's go back to the script.
Sure. Sure.
We promised you guys le'ale'a. We told you guys it was going to be le'ale'a.
Yeah.
You know, and so graduations are happening all across Hawaii, right? But right before graduation season, right before May Day, right, there are some really kind of tough issues that we're dealing with that's still kind of lingering on right now. Like Red Hill, right? And our water. Right. What's going on with our water up there. And one thing is that it made us all realize what kapukaki, where that was and that name even, right? When none of us had really even heard of that name. And I know it started to spur discussions about, what traditional names are for different sites that. And also Ole Kawai, right? The importance of our vai there.
I remember that place name. When I was in Hawaiian Studies years ago, the teacher of a class called Pana O'ahu was Kalani Wise. And that kapukaki was, and that's pretty much a border between Honolulu and Ewa, or it's in the general area. But the issue, I mean, as we all know, and if you don't watch the news, you probably should, and then you can watch the kind of Wheel of Fortune Mahope. But it's the ma'i or the clean water, and when water is contaminated, for however it's contaminated. And the consumers don't know about it, and then you talk about health issues and people getting ma'i, which means sick, and so I know we're not out of the woods yet with that federal matter now. Right. I mean, this is a U.S. Navy issue, but it really is a Hawaii issue because we think about Kane, the giver of life and the deity of fresh water, Kawaii Kane. When water is not clean, there are ways to clean it. But we're talking millions and millions of gallons of daily household used water. So do you know where we're at now with that? What's the latest?
Yeah, so right now, the Navy has agreed to stop the operations at the wells there. I'm not serious, not at the wells, at the tanks, at the storage tanks.
Well, you.
Yeah. and defuel. Right, they've agreed to do that that action. Now comes the hard part, right? Is all the funding that's needed to do that. What I fear is another kaho'olawe happening, right? Where there's an effort to clean up a mess that the military has caused, and we run out of money or something like that. So we'll have to stay vigilant. We'll have to make sure that our water sources are taken care of, and the people who said they were going to do things actually follow through and do them.
Well, that's another thing too. I always we speak about kaho'olawe, and in this case now the years and years of contamination of the water by the military. But we have to remember too that we as Kanaka are also responsible for keeping our aina clean, and we are some of the ones who don't do that oftentimes as well. Another thing too, when we're talking about that, because as I ask you about this issue at Kapukaki, which is Red Hill and in that area, is that sometimes we tend to sort of listen to a little bit of the news and kind of get an idea of what it is, and then jump on the bandwagon and just have this mana'o about it without really knowing anything about it. So ya'oko apau, I mean, what we can do, read the paper or go online or look at the news every now and then, because these issues, we're a stronger people as Kanaka Hawaii if we have an understanding of what the issues are. We don't have to be experts, but in this case, it's really very simple. It's the contaminated water consumed by humans causes illness, and that is a'ole mai ka'ikela.
Right. And that's the one resource that we all have to have, right? As Kanaka, as human beings on planet Earth, water is the thing that we all need, or we cease to exist, right?
And the water in Hawaii is so delicious. And we have a saying, "Ue kalani ola kahonua," when the heavens weep, the earth lives, and all of that rainwater coming in through the earth and down over years. It takes years for that process to bring the water down to the water table, and but our water is ono, and it's precious, and as Jerry Santos always sings, take care of our water.
That was we need to make that. That's the next commercial. That's the next generation of commercial.
Sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have to say, okay, Uncle Jerry, we're gonna move you on the side, and Manu's gonna take over the Malama Ika.
Sometimes people think I am Jerry Santos, which is or Frank de Lima. I don't understand. I'm not Portuguese, but really, deep down, aren't we all a little Portuguese?
I was the only one on a 4-person trip that went to Portugal. And yeah, I can tell the difference.
Oh, really? Yeah. I would love to go to Portugal.
It was beautiful. And, me and you both, and you were saying the water is so ono. And we know that because we've traveled the world.
Yeah.
Right? And we've traveled around the world and in different spaces, once sharing our Hawaii with the world, and also having different cultures sharing with us. I'm going to take a brief side trip, because I think it's so important to our perspective, here is, what was the most fascinating place that you've ever been to?
Well, I've never been to Europe before until just in the past 6 months of last fall. A bunch of us, including Kumu, Lili Kala, and we had a big gang. We went to Spain, to Barcelona. No, we go to Japan a lot, but before we even talk about this, who cares where I've been? It doesn't really matter. But you know what I always think, and this is something for CNHA or for other funders, is the best way to train our people about hospitality, because ho'okipa malihini, ho'okipa kama'aina is a big part of our culture, is take everybody on a trip somewhere. Every Hawaiian, here's your tickets and here's your itinerary. Go. Right. Because I'll tell you, we talk about Hawaiian hospitality where we go, and you've been to Japan before too. Yep. No, there's something about Japan. They love Hawaiian music and they love hula, but their hospitality is something else. They're so polite. The food is ono loa, or as we say in Japanese, oishii desu ne. But anyway, back to your question. I think that the trip to Spain
Barcelona?
And also to Italy. Because we like our wine and our pasta,
Yes. And I went to Barcelona too, and it's actually, that's the one place I want to go back to again. I loved Barcelona.
It was beautiful.
What I loved about Barcelona, and every place I've gone away from home always makes me appreciate home, right?
You know what was really interesting, speaking of that part of the world, is that there was a news story, with a devastation in Ukraine right now, and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and there was a wahine, Anastasia, I think was her name, from Ukraine. And they had to flee. They had to move. Went off to Germany, or went off to somewhere else to avoid all of that hakaka and that pilikia. And she happens to be a hula student also, an online hula student. And her most important thing that she needed, this is a wahine in Ukraine, was her pa'u, her practice skirt. She wanted to make sure she had that, and her ukulele, and of course her children.
Right.
But and her ohana. But it was so interesting in this crazy world we live in that this woman from the Ukraine, her pa'u, and her ukulele, that meant so much to her, right down into her core. So there's something for all of you Hawaiians out there. You put a smile on that face, because a lot of people really love what we have, and we share it, but we also we cultivate it as well.
Something I've always told people, whether they wanted to hear it or not, is that the world is better with Hawaiians in it.
I agree.
Right? And hula people. I think hula people, of course, I may be slightly biased, but hula people are the most fabulous people in the world. But we're healers. Like in I know that sounds kind of airy-fairy and like kind of mystic, but no, for real, our aina heals, our people does.
That is
our
the spirit
music.
of Hi'iaka Ikapolio.
Oh yeah.
And so but real quick on that though, I think that Hawaii is actually in world settlement is really one of the last places to be settled on Earth, and also the most remote place on Earth as far as a landmass. But our it's like they save the best for last. But the thinking though of when you talk about Pele, you talk about the hula traditions, which largely center around the stories about Pele and her family, is that Hi'iaka Ikapolio Pele is a healer. And we think about a lava flow, and the first things that sprout from the lava would be the kupu fern or the lehua. And every time I look at you, I see a lehua blossom.
Mahalo.
The napuale oliko lehua. And so anyway, those things are important that we acknowledge that Hawaii is very distinct and very unique, and people for generations. You say you're from Hawaii, you go anywhere in the world, and you say you're from Hawaii. It's just like, oh, wow, where's that? Or they don't know, but they have a sense of what it is.
Right. No, they always have a sense of aloha. Actually, for us, right?
Yeah.
We can de-escalate situations just by sharing that we are from Hawaii, many times in wherever we traverse.
So that aloha is very important. It's a way of life. So everybody remember that. Don't take it for granted. Sometimes we forget to show our aloha.
Oh yeah. Yep. On that line of Hi'iaka Ikapolio Pele, it's an epic, right? Epic mo'olelo, and so much layers to it. Now in 2022, we have storytellers, right? And one of them is I'm gonna call him, my future ex-boyfriend, Jason Momoa. Yeah, it was gonna be your future ex-husband. Yeah, right. That's everybody's out there in the world, But Jason just came out, and it was in the news and it was all over social media, right? That he's gonna produce a new film, based on the life of Ka'iana and that time period of contact. Yeah. Right, and Kamehameha, and tell that story like that.
That's a great story that a lot of our own people don't know.
Right. And what do you think that's gonna, or what do you hope for it to be?
Well, first of all, I've never met Jason Momoa, but I think because of this show, Garens we're gonna meet now.
Yeah.
Momoa or less.
Yeah.
But his involvement in media, in film, from the Baywatch days and all of that, he's so well known and recognized, and he's one handsome Kanaka, that is for sure.
Yeah.
And when he speaks clearly, and he communicates well, and that really is important. So there are so many stories that could be told. I didn't know about Ka'iana, but Ka'iana is an ali'inui. Who really was an ally of Kamehameha, and then he eventually becomes an ally of Kamehameha's cousin and opponent, Kalani Kupule. But interesting how I didn't know.
Well, and what I love about him wanting to tell that story is the complexity of our existence. Yeah. Right? Like it's not as simple. People think that, okay, you live in Hawaii, you have coconut trees and beaches, and that's your life. Right? The complexity of the interactions that we've had for generations now. That story, one, is very compelling. Yeah. Right? It talks to the human, just the human spirit to be courageous.
But that's also like the story of Hi'iaka. Hi'iaka, the drama, the humor,
exactly,
the life lessons, the family loyalties, and all of that. I think sometimes our own people, because not everyone speaks Hawaiian, and if you don't speak Hawaiian, it's okay, because there's a reason we don't speak Hawaiian. And for those who are working hard to continue to bring it back, that's important. Our language is poetic, it's very, very rich. But you have, speaking of tourism and that sort of thing, you have the old Hapahaole songs like, I don't like shoes upon my feet, to be at ease is such a treat, and smile at everyone I meet. That's the Hawaiian in me. So we become these happy-go-lucky, somewhat lazy. We're here to entertain, and we're going to give you a lei and a honi, and that's what we do. Everybody happy. Well, everybody not so happy all the time.
Right.
And these stories, like Jason Momoa's commitment to the story of Ka'iana in the late 18th century, early 19th century, is a fantastic way for our young Hawaiians, and not just Hawaiians, everybody, to have a sense of real pride about our absolutely amazing, interesting, deep, rich heritage and history.
Right. And that's why my hope for it, right, is that it actually it uses the technology of today, right? And all the kind of movie making magic that they have to actually try and get up to the point where our poetry is.
Yes.
Because I don't think movie making was at the level of Hawaiian poetry before.
Yeah, no,
right?
no.
And so now I think, with CG and animation and graphics and stuff like that, they can actually try and achieve
what I say. Okay, so Jason, this is for you. Jason Momoa. Calling Jason Momoa. You want some magic? You come talk to Manu and Mehana.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll meet you down the road at another M place in Kapolei. And we're going to talk about that. But no, you're right. And not everybody who speaks Hawaiian is poetic and that higher level. And not everybody who tells Hawaiian stories has that kind of depth like Jason's interpretation of Ka'iana. But it's okay. But just learn and listen and be proud of who we are, because you know what? And plus, Hawaiians are all good looking no matter what.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
That's what I heard. I
agree. Talking about good-looking Hawaiians. Okay, so there's one part of this Midday Manaʻo that, Manu, I'm gonna throw it at you and see what you think, right? And it's gonna be where we get to pick and or discuss who's the Native Hawaiian of the week, right? So we've had a couple of things popping up around town, right? So Kalani Pe'a just won a Grammy.
Yeah.
Bronson Vardy, I don't know if you've seen the show on NBC called American Song Contest. Had on Hawaiian. There's a Samoan girl on there representing Polynesians. So he's been out there representing Hawaiians, on the big stage.
There's so many. And Hokulea is back out in the Moana Nui Akea. So Nainoa and all of the Wahine and Kane who work hard. But let's go back. I think Kalani Pe'a, speaking of canoes, because his last name can mean sail.
Oh yeah.
Ha ha ha.
What is that motion you guys do? Commitment schools, that Pe'a one?
What you mean commitment schools? That's not Kamale.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Yes. What do you think Commitment Schools got it?
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway.
Right.
No, but Kalani Pe'a, and his third Grammy Award, I don't think people know, because they call him Purplelicious, because he likes to call her Poni, which is purple in Hawaiian. Let's all say Poni. Purple. There we go. But, he's also educated through our Hawaiian language medium school, Navahi Kalani Opu'u. So ho'omai nui a'oe, and to all of our musicians, I've been up to the Grammy Awards. Good fun. You get the bougie kind of Hollywood action, and you know what? We're just as comfortable sometimes in one tuxedo as we are in a malo. But these days, I wear my malo on the inside. But yeah, so Kalani Pe'a, congratulations. And we got athletes, we got navigators, we got people all over the place.
Right, they're all over. Carissa Moore won in the Olympics. I know that was a couple months ago, but that was a big deal too, right?
Yes, yeah.
First time it's in there.
By the way, the Olympics was last summer, so it
was
more than a couple months ago.
COVID got my time all kind of confused. I don't even know. Again, the minutes, the hours, the days, the weeks, the months.
By the way, I don't know if you know this, but the next summer Olympics is going to be in France.
Oh,
France is the host, but the He'enalu competition is going to be at Te Ahu Po'o in Tahiti, in French Polynesia, which is really, why do we call it French Polynesia?
Right, no.
Really, we just call it Tahiti.
Tahiti, yes.
And that's what they call, in fact, even in Tahiti, there's a bunch of people who are trying to correct, because everybody says Chopo, that surfing spot. But it's Te Ahu Po'o, and that is where the next Summer Olympics surfing, sponsored by and hosted by France, is going to be in Te Ahu Po'o, Tahiti.
I think we need to get our pareos ready.
I think so too.
And go down there.
That's right.
And do our Midday Manaʻo from there.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that's happening is that, and we're super excited here at CNHA, is that we have been, Manu, this is like breaking news.
Oh.
We've been nominated for an Emmy. Our Papa Makeke, Papa Makeke, which is like and I'm a little biased again because I work over here, but one of the most innovative ideas that came out of that first year of the pandemic, was to help the businesses, switch really quick before a lot of these businesses would have went out of business, right? They would have been no more after that. But the idea of Papa Makeke and the fact that it was, hosted on television for the last 2.5 years, and it's still continuing now, we've been nominated for an Emmy Award.
Well, ho'omaika inui. And for a lot of people, I remember we did Merry Monarch last year, and Kuhio Lewis came on our set for Merry Monarch. And I as we were talking about this, not the nomination, of course, but the actual the pop-up makeke, and I wondered to myself right there on the spot, how many people don't even know what the word makeke is? So here we go. So makeke is an example of a word borrowed from English or a transliteration. So it's market, makeke. So it's not a traditional Hawaiian word. But pop-up makeke is a pop-up marketplace. And for the Council of for Native Hawaiian Advancement to be nominated for an Emmy, what does that even mean? Are we going on a trip somewhere?
Yes, I was just gonna say that's what it means.
Do we need new clothes?
We do. We're going to wear our models on the inside and wear tuxedos and gowns on the outside.
Okay.
Yes.
But so what was the criteria for this Emmy Award, or what
I think it was in a I got to go double check. But I think it was a part of, so our news stations here often get nominated for different stories and so forth.
Right.
And we partnered with HNN to do that whole production.
Right. And we have so many great artists and designers and all of that. But remember, the spirit of creativity, going back to hula and laka and all of that, the traditional thinking. Hawaiians are so talented, and we have so much to offer through inspiration or from being through inspired works. That let's remember that and also give celebrate all of our hardworking. And also, not only that, but as you mentioned, this idea of pop-up makeke, kind of fueled by the ma'i ahulau, by the pandemic, and so many other things. Amidst all the tragedy and the loss of life and the horrible illness that many experience, but also from that turmoil, have come many new ideas about how to do things. People are Zooming and Microsoft Teams and meeting, and that's when in the morning I'm doing that. Aloha shirt on the top and pareo on the bottom. So I haven't had to stand up yet. So anyway, just so you know. But that's like the newscasters too. They're wearing shorts. They get a blazer with the tie. Keahi Tucker. Garrett, he's wearing board shorts.
And speaking of Keahi, before we wrap up this show, I wanna kind of end on something. We were both in Hilo, Hawaii recently, and I just miss hula. I miss hula. I was just so to see our babies. Now we're just so old, Manu. Like all of these babies, like we were there when they were born. I know, because we're still cute. So it's hard.
Everybody calls me uncle now. Even the old people are calling me uncle.
Yeah. And to see all these babies, right? They were all we were there when they were all born.
No, but the hula that we saw in Merry Monarch this year was stunning, and to pi'ikea, and I call her Ku'u Pi'ikea, because she's mine.
Yes.
Pi'ikea Lopez. And there's a story that relates to Rapa Nui that I'll share with you at another issue of Midday Manaʻo about this year's Miss Aloha Hula, Pi'ikea Lopez. But the hula is and young dancers. Not everybody young, but even in our hala Nakamale, you got people like right over here, CNHA, Kaleo Pa'avaris. He's really brought the age curve really down low.
When did Uncle Robert start letting in 10-year-olds?
I should say so. But Mike, and you know what? At Pela no Eolai Kaku. Everything we learned this from Auntie Pua Kanahele. She talks about cycles. You got to go through the cycles, acknowledge them. And, when it's time for us to get old, that's what you're going to do. You can't fake young. And if you do, sometimes it's kind of uji.
Yeah. We'll just take it one cruise at a time and sail off into our middle ageness.
But what you need to do, because you are so engaging and you have, I like to call it charisma. Give the age some hano. So you have such charisma, and people do share these stories with the younger ones. All these things that we talk about, get them interested, and because we have so much to offer the world and so much to really enrich ourselves.
because
we are something.
We are definitely.
You are something.
No, you are. Okay, before we go down this path, of just loving and sharing aloha with each other, because we do that all the time, and it's so easy for us. And I'm mahalo this opportunity, to sit here with you.
It's awesome. It's
every
awesome.
midday to vala'au and kuka about our love of land, our love of place. We'd like to again thank Kaiser Permanente and the National Benefit Fund, and also, our ohana here at the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement.
You know what they call it when everybody feels good at the end of a Hawaiian song? A laughing ha'ina.
On that note,
sure.
we'll leave you all today. Join us again next week.
E ho'i ho mai. I mean, because this is good fun. I'm coming back.
I hope so.
Guaranteed. Yeah. So, what is Midday Manaʻo with Manu and Mehana? That's a lot of M's.
Ahui ho kako.
Ke aloha.